I want to quickly go through the additional problematic provisions in this bill, because this is now the core of our objection to this bill. We have a fundamental issue as a Muslim community and faith community with this removal of the good faith exemption, even with the language that was introduced. That's point number one. Point number two, the bill's core is around protection of places of worship. They introduced language and they introduced a provision, a clause that basically criminalizes what they call obstruction or intimidation, obstruction and intimidation to access places of worship. This is becoming a little bit more serious because even the bubble zones bylaws are all fines. Like if you violate it, law enforcement can enforce it. It's not a criminal offense. This is going to be upgraded to a criminal offense. The argument basically says, well, law enforcement has to prove that the obstruction and intimidation, they have to prove that this actually has instilled fear of people and actually impeded their access to places of worship. Interestingly, there is already an obstruction clause in the criminal code. Like, obstruction is never the issue with protests because protesters organize ahead of time. In most cases, obstruction is not the intent of protests. The meaning of intimidation is basically to instill enough fear in a person that impedes them from access. Okay, so basically you scare people enough that they cannot go, which is very open, which is very subjective. And again, the immediate question that you can, who's going to determine this? It is going to be law enforcement. And police and law enforcement, the history with many of the communities was not that great and not that positive, and that's a whole objection on its own. The problem again with this bill, they actually pushed it beyond places of worship. So the clause says that the obstruction and intimidation applies to buildings that are used in full or in part by an identifiable group. Identifiable group has an explanation in law, including nationalities, gender, religion, and so on. Not only these buildings are using this for religious activities, for educational activities, for recreational activities, for sports activities, which means basically any activity that is done by any specific group in any building. Organizing online can still be subject to the scrutiny of this bill. Okay, if it's about a specific event, it's about a specific building, and so on. And moving forward, the fact that they have introduced a new hate crime offense that can be mixed with, like, coupled with any other criminal offense is also problematic. This offense is going to be weaponized. Any dispute, additional dispute that they can bring an angle of anti-Zionism or anything into it can potentially become compounded hate offense. By the way, without Attorney General consent. So just law enforcement decides you guys are fighting with another identifiable party because you are in this fight and this dispute, or because you're wearing this or wearing that, or whatever reasoning that they can put together to claim that this is hate. Then this is an additional charge that can go up to 10 and 15 years of prison. On the terror-related symbols, can be conflated with some religious symbols and religious scripture. Many of the terrorist entities, Al-Qaeda and otherwise, have, for example, on their flags, the Arabic scripture of the declaration of faith, of the Muslim faith. They can easily mistake La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah inscribed on somebody's t-shirt, somebody's banner, somebody's anything, and it becomes ground for a criminal offense. Second, the colors and cultural symbols, religious flags. The fact that when you tie to terrorist entities, the bar is so low that they have to say it is actually causing fear and intimidation.